The Super Bowl is in the rear view. We can officially say it is baseball season, folks. I should say the Benito Bowl because that Super Bowl was sort of kind of a clunker, but I leave that to the wayside because it's all about the World Baseball Classic. It's all about spring training starting. Pitchers and catchers are reporting this week, and we've got a couple headlines off the top. We are also going to give you a World Baseball Classic roster preview. Myself, Jack McMullen, and him, Peter Appel, on the Just Baseball Show. Thank you so much for joining us on YouTube, on X, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or if you're with us on SportsGrid. New season on SportsGrid. Peter Appel, who we brought to you by
BetMGM, and if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code JustBaseball when signing up, and you will get up to a $1,500 new player offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Just download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code JustBaseball. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and if that bet loses, you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Also, use this BetMGM any sport, no sweat token on your favorite sport. If your bet isn't a winner, you get your stake back in bonus bets. Swing, pass, or shoot, it's your choice. Enjoy action without the sweat. Your no sweat token has already been dropped into your account. No opt-in necessary. Add a golf, hockey, or basketball bet to your bet slip. Bet it up to the specified maximum stake and activate the token. If your bet doesn't win, you'll receive your stake back in bonus bets up to the specified maximum amount. Remember, that's code JustBaseball on BetMGM. Yes, I am very excited to talk about baseball. I'm excited to get football in the rearview mirror because I went 0-6 on my Super Bowl wagers, Jack. It was such a horrible Sunday for me.
Hey, brother, not my problem. And guess what? In a what have you done for me lately world, no one's going to care in 4 days. So let's move on and let's talk about baseball. And I want to pivot to a transaction. I would sit here and sulk about that 0-for-6 night with you, but I figure we can just talk about a Caleb Durbin, 7-asset trade moving around between the Red Sox and the Milwaukee Brewers. It's a great way to just kind of stiff arm that negative thought and push forward into baseball. The full trade, the Boston Red Sox find their third baseman, Caleb Durbin, along with Andrew Monasterio, Anthony Siegler, and the 67th overall pick. It's a competitive balance round B pick. Will go from Milwaukee to Boston for Kyle Harrison, David Hamilton, and Shane Drohan. Kyle Harrison was the marquee pitching prospect that was moved in the Rafi Devers deal from San Francisco to Boston, and now he is rerouted through Worcester because he never threw for the Boston Red Sox. He goes from Worcester to Milwaukee. It's an interesting trade. I guess I want your immediate Red Sox thought, and then we'll pivot to the Brewer thought.
My immediate Red Sox thought is, how is the fit going to work in Boston with Caleb Durbin? Because last year he kind of burst onto the scene. He posted an OPS, in the low to mid 700s, but put up a 2.6 FWAR because he's a solid defender. He's a really good base runner. And the quality of contact, right? He doesn't hit the ball very hard, but he combines that with elite plate discipline and he gets the most out of that contact. And when I look at his profile and how it's going to fit at Fenway Park, I can't help but notice if he played every single game, all 136 at Fenway Park last year, Baseball Savant says he would have hit only 5 home runs at Fenway. However, that might make Red Sox fans cringe a little bit and say, oh, what did we just get? He pulls the ball in the air a lot, but it's a lot of low line drives. What does that make me think? He had 25 doubles last year. I think he could be a 35 double guy. That's the type of player I think the Red Sox are bringing in, is one of these just scavengers, right? Like a real tough ball player who led the National League in hit by pitches last year. He had 24 hit by pitches and 30 walks. Isn't that a crazy stat? And he's also always had an innate ability to get hit with pitches. Look at his minor league numbers. Consistently getting hit by pitches. This is a grinder. The Red Sox brought in a pretty solid player.
He's kind of got like this, cool backstory. I wasn't going to say ragtag, but kind of this, bootstrapping your way through the baseball journey. Caleb Durbin does. He was a Wash U guy. He was a D3 baseball player. He's got a wrestling background, and you understand why. I think he's 5'7" on his best day. That is a short guy, but a short king. And Caleb Durbin, Homers are not going to be his game. His game is going to be maybe 35 doubles off the monster at Fenway or maybe into the gap. It's going to be swiping a bunch of bags if everything lines up. This guy was a speed demon in the Arizona Fall League in 2024. The other thing is defense. You know that you are getting a sure-handed defender at third base pretty much every day if you're the Boston Red Sox. And this guy was top 10 among third basemen last year in fielding run value. So you get a good defender with 5 years of club control. The way that I took this in for the Boston Red Sox, and like, you know, the other pieces are cool. The funny, memeable thing is if you looked at Fangraphs and saw the depth chart at third base for the Milwaukee Brewers, the Red Sox just took all three of them. It was Durbin, it was Siegler, and it was Monasterio, which I can appreciate. They want that third base depth. For the Red Sox, I thought that this was an interesting pivot from what I perceived the ideal third base situation to be. I think at the beginning of the offseason, everybody was saying Bregman's the ideal fit at third. And yes, like 100%, that would have worked well. He got $175 million from the Cubs. Plan B was probably go and get Isaac Paredes from Houston, and we saw reports about their interest there. We saw reports about framework for a trade there. Paredes is a guy that is a top 10 third baseman in the game, according to us, as recently as last week, that probably has a little bit more power potential and offensive potential. But what they identified is, unlike Paredes, who only has 2 years of control and is already making about $10 million, they found a guy who's on the league minimum for the next 2 years and has 5 years of control that they feel like will hold it down defensively at third base and be a good bat for them in the 7-hole or the 8-hole of their lineup. What does this mean for Marcelo Meyer? Probably more second base reps. What does this mean for Christian Campbell? Who the heck knows? They needed to get an answer for opening day at third base, one of third base or second base. And it seems like they have their answer.
Speaking about Marcelo Meyer and speaking about trades, Alex Spire of the Boston Globe reported earlier that the Red Sox and the Diamondbacks were close to a deal for Ketel Marte, where they were willing to part with top prospect Franklin Arias and Peyton Tolley or Connolly Early. That was basically the crux of the deal. But talks broke down when the Diamondbacks said they wanted Marcelo Meyer. I'm confused by that. And I think a big reason why is if you felt that Meyer was not your third baseman of the future, why would that be the name to stop you from going to get Ketel Marte?
Because
I think this season he's going to likely platoon at second base with Romy Gonzalez. And now he's still young, right? And there's 2 years left on the Trevor Story deal. In 2026, he's going to make about $25 million in 27. And then there's a team option. I doubt the Red Sox pick that up. So you really, I guess you're kind of molding him into your next potential shortstop.
Yes.
To me, it confuses because if you're not going to trade Meyer in order to get a guy like Ketel Marte, that makes me think this guy, stamp it, he is our third baseman of the future. We do not want to give up that guy. But instead, they trade for Caleb Durbin, and then now we're going to platoon him with Romy Gonzalez, and that guy was what broke down the Ketel Marte trades. Again, I don't even have a take. I wanted to throw that at you because I'm confused and maybe I'm missing something.
No, I mean, I think it's a pretty simple rebuttal. Like, they view him as the shortstop of the future. And I don't think Caleb Durbin's presence is going to get in the way of Marcelo Meyer getting at bats. I really don't, because Durbin hits right-handed, Marcelo hits left-handed. But Marcelo can play all three infield spots. Durbin can fill in at second base if need be. But, like, I do see Craig Breslow's thinking of Marcelo Meyer is our shortstop of the future. At some point, it's going to break down with Story. Meyer is a top 50 prospect in baseball consensus before he, accumulated the plate appearances needed to graduate from those prospect lists. So I totally understand. Like, Meyer's just the shortstop of the future, and he's just a better asset to have than a Franklin Arias right now. And Arias is a darn good prospect. Meyer is just a more valuable asset to this point.
Real quick. Yeah. Bringing in IKF, and then a part of that trade, you're also bringing in Siegler and Monasterio. You're bringing in a bunch of infield depth on top of it. I guess that just confused me.
Yeah, I understand. We've got about 30 seconds left in this segment. I do want to reiterate the package that Milwaukee acquired, and then we'll talk about it briefly at the start of the next segment. But it was Kyle Harrison, David Hamilton, and Shane Drohan. So 2 pitchers and a position player in David Hamilton. So that's what we're going to talk about On the other side of this break, Kyle Harrison, obviously the headliner that is going from Boston to Milwaukee in the trade that got Caleb Durbin into a Red Sox uniform. That's coming up in a moment right here on the Just Baseball Show.
How about selling it to a minority ownership group that could show the NFL is moving in the right direction? Hey, it's one thing to talk about black coaches in the National Football League. It's one thing to talk about black general managers. It's another thing to start talking about a minority owner owning the football team.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
They actually play Miami and nobody else. Bum after bum after bum. Now, the key ingredient to this clause, though, Joe, college football undefeated season. Ooh, no, wait, Donnie. You go undefeated in the regular season, you got to win like 4 games to win that championship. No, you don't. It's regular season. Notre Dame, the kings of duck, and saying, hey, we're going to play the easiest schedule ever. They got it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The money line keeps climbing, though, if you'll notice.
Yes.
The point spread hasn't moved. It's been locked in at 4.5. The money line, though, keeps creeping up, man. It was 210, and it's funny because normally you figure the number will be correlated, right? It's like, all right, the money line, the point spread's this, that means the money line is that, which tells us there's a lot of money line plays coming in on Seattle.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He completed a pool bank shot at just 2 years and 302 days. His achievements make him one of the youngest double record holders ever. So let me summarize this for you without reading. He's 2 years old, and he's really good at pool. I mean, that is crazy. 2 years old! How is he doing this? I have no idea. So I guess we got to start training our youngsters to play pool. Okay, fair enough.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Continues tying a bow real quick on this Brewer Red Sox trade. We talked about Caleb Durbin going from Milwaukee to Boston. The headliner is Kyle Harrison going from Boston to Milwaukee. Kyle Harrison was one of the top left-handed pitching prospects in the game when he was with San Francisco. He broke in. He kind of took his lumps, but you saw what everybody loved, where it's a really low release, unorthodox low release, and then the fastball carries pretty darn well. So it's a fastball that kind of guides the ship for Kyle Harrison, but there's more work to be done. He's a really young guy, hasn't even turned 24 years old yet, I don't think. But he goes to Milwaukee now. Milwaukee, I'm not sure what they're doing from a position player side of things. Pitching, they're getting younger and they're getting better. And you think about the 5-year plan of Mizorowski, Priester, Sproat, Kyle Harrison, Chad Patrick, Logan Henderson, you start to get really darn excited.
Robert Gasser on top of that as well.
Gasser.
They have so many arms at their disposal. And what's less interesting to me is evaluating Kyle Harrison, because the Brewers are smarter than us. And if they like Kyle Harrison, good. Right? Kyle Harrison was the top prospect. You know, he was one of the big headline pieces in the Devers trade for a reason. He's still young. He's got a lot of upside. Brewers want him. Take him.
And it worked out for Quinn Priester going from Boston to Milwaukee. You have a feeling that it may work out for Kyle Harrison.
When does it not work out for the Brewers when it comes to evaluating pitching?
Like, I know. The only thing I want to say real quick on the position player side is Milwaukee, it smells like they have another move coming. Otherwise, you have to do some shuffling here, because who's playing third base? Again, you traded Durbin and the reserves. You traded Monasterio and Siegler. I think that they make a move for a second base type, and they have this like switch up where Joey Ortiz goes back to third. He played short in 25 and he played third in 24. I think there's a world that Terang plays shortstop for them. They could make a move for a shortstop, but they could pivot Terang from second to short. That's the position he played coming up. And then you've got a new second baseman or something like that.
My brain thought, could they be the team to trade for Isaac Paredes? And then in our Discord, which has been so much fun during the offseason, you can find the link to join the best baseball group chat in the world in the episode description.
Yeah.
DYM, who we always love chopping it up with, talks a lot about Marlins, of course, because that's his favorite team. But he brought up a really good point. Isn't Isaac Paredes the type of guy that the Brewers would trade away?
Yes, absolutely. Expiring deal. You've got 2 years. He's already making $10 million, but they did clear up some salary with Freddie Peralta going to New York.
Exactly. I guess I don't know what the Brewers' plan is, because if you're telling me it's Joey Ortiz, Jet Williams, and Bryce Terang as your whatever combination of shortstop, third base, and second base. I don't love that. And then you also traded away all the depth. So it's a big bet for the Brewers to be making in 2026. Now, if there were a team that I would believe in when we're talking about making a gamble, the Brewers are on a short list.
Sure.
But that still doesn't make the gamble any less of a gamble.
Sure. Real quick, give me your 30 seconds apiece on Marcell Ozuna signing a 1-year, $12 million deal with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'll give you my 30 seconds, and then I want your 30 seconds. Pittsburgh, this is signaling that they are moving on from the Andrew McCutchen thing. And that's like sad, but it also makes a lot of sense. Marcell Ozuna, I don't just say this because he's nicknamed the Big Bear. He's a sleeping giant. Last year felt like an underwhelming year for him. There's a world that 1 year and $12 million is an absolute heist for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes. And my take on this is, what are the 2 words that we've heard the most this offseason from other GMs, from good teams who are trying to fix their team in the offseason? I think the 2 most common words have been run prevention.
Yes.
We just talked about Caleb Durbin. What did we highlight first? His defense, right? We've talked about the Mets, talked about a lot of teams who are trying to get better defensively. What have the Pittsburgh Pirates done this offseason?
Scoring.
They have swam in the waters of, we don't really care about your defense. Marcell Ozuna, he's going to be your DH. Ryan O'Hearn probably should be your DH, but he's playing left field. Brandon Lau, not a very good defensive second baseman, but can really hit. The password, not known for defense, right? So a lot of their pickups this offseason have been leaning into not a market inefficiency, but in a way of, these guys are kind of being left for dead because they don't really provide any defensive value, but we know that they make our offense better. And it'll be interesting to see what the Pirates look like day in and day out. They could put up a high WRC plus as an offense, but they could also be one of the worst defensive teams in Major League Baseball. Joey Bart, their catcher, not a very good defender. Like, Jared Triolo is only known for his defense. And is O'Neal Cruz now the second best defender on the Pirates? That's a real thing that we might see in 2026.
Also, do they have a shortstop? Or do they just have a second baseman that's playing
Nick
shortstop?
Gonzalez? I mean, who knows?
Nick
if he can
Gonzalez might
play.
be a second baseman playing shortstop. But you know what? I think that fan base and that front office was just kind of sick of losing 2-1 games. They kind of want to win games 10-9, which I totally understand, and I'm all for. Got a couple minutes left in this segment, but obviously Team USA is going to bleed into the next segment. But we'll start our World Baseball Classic roster previews right now. And of course, we're going to start with Team USA. I want to bounce around, and Peyton Genis is with us right now, obviously kicking tail in the producer chair at the moment. But Podcast Pete, you can leave the graphic up for a little bit if you want, because we're going to go kind of, rapid fire through a lot of the big, heavy hitting teams. And we'll start with Team USA here. Obviously, everybody wants to talk about the lineup. And the lineup is great. And you've got Harper at first, Gunnar at second, Bobby Witt at short, Bregman at third, outfield at Carroll, Buxton, Judge, Raleigh catching, Schwarber DHing, and the bench being Will Smith, Terang, Ernie Clement, Paul Goldschmidt, PCA. But it's the rotation, man. This is the best rotation the U.S. has ever put out in this type of tournament. Tarek Skubal, Paul Skeens, Logan Webb, Joe Ryan, and Nolan McLean if they need him. McLean could also throw 2 innings out of the bullpen. The bullpen is not too shabby either. You've got, some legacy guys like Kershaw and Michael Wacha in there, but you also have Mason Miller and Spire and Jax and Clay Holmes. For me, it's the rotation that separates Team USA going into the World Baseball Classic.
This is the best team that's ever been fielded in the history of baseball. Yep, look at it. On the bench, you have a top 4 catcher at the very minimum in Will Smith, with Bryce Terang, a top 5 second baseman in the game. PCA was second in MVP odds in the first half of last season behind Shohei Ohtani. That's your bench. And then look at the lineup. Aaron Judge, outside of Shohei Ohtani, is the second best player in the world. Cal Raleigh's probably a top 5 player in the world. Bobby Witt Jr., in my estimation, is the 3rd best player in the world. And you have the 2 best pitchers in the world in Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens. And Logan Webb, what is he, the 7th best pitcher in the world? This is the greatest team I've ever seen fielded.
I love that take, and I would need to go through the archives to try and figure out if there is a better all-star team or something like that. But you know what? Without being able to fact check you, I would probably say yes. I want to get into the pen in a sec. That's coming up next on the Just Baseball Show.
Aaron Judge, no stranger to hitting 60 home runs in a season, but we certainly aren't going to put a FanDuel win total or even DraftKings at 60. So Sam, our producer, set it at 55. Aaron Judge will hit 55 plus home runs this year. You going to buy or sell?
All right, Aaron Rodgers here.
Oh, there
Aaron,
he is.
What do you think? What do you think, Aaron? Can you hit 55? Aaron Judge, right? Got it in my head here. 55 is asking a lot, Sam. It's asking a lot. He hit 53 last year, 58 the year before, 37, but that was the year he hurt his toe in Dodger Stadium, and then, of course, 62. I got to sell this. All right, you're asking for just to be 7 home runs off the record? I mean, no, he can't keep doing this every year here. Plus, he does have an injury history there. Over the last 2 years, he's been completely healthy. I'll just say no. Between the possibility of an injury, teams waking up and going, nope, not pitching to him, I'll take the under here. Although, as a Yankee fan, he better, because if he don't, Yankees going to be in a lot of trouble.
So I've decided to go by the letter of the law. Sam is not going to like this. Sam is not going to like my answer. Yep. Sam, listen. Sam leaves these little loopholes in the buy or sell. 55 home runs between 55 plus the regular season, postseason, World Baseball Classic. Buy. Spring training. Buy. Above 55 between spring training, World Baseball Classic, regular season, and postseason. Aaron Judge will hit 55 home runs. He didn't say this season. He didn't say this season. He said this year. The graphic says this year.
Fantasy Sports Today. Friday, starting at 3 p.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Continues, and we are continuing our World Baseball Classic preview. We were talking Team USA at the end of the last segment. I want to continue with Team USA. We hit on the rotation real quick. Best rotation they've ever put out here, headlined by Tarek Skubal and Paul Skeens. That lineup is unbelievable, and it can kind of be Mark DeRosa, the manager's choice, like dealer's choice of what outfield alignment you want to roll out on a given day. Oh, you're playing Brazil? Like PCA could probably start over Buxton. We'll see if somebody wants to play over Corbin Carroll. I just wonder if they're at bats for Clement and Terang. I want to talk about the pen for a moment because I think people going into this tournament may underestimate the value of the bullpen in this. These starting pitchers, given where it sits on the baseball calendar, are not going to go 6 innings. They're going to go 4 or 5 innings. This is just a way more intense spring training. The pen is really important. You've got a 7th, 8th, and 9th, when you get to the quarters, the semis, the championship, of Griffin Jacks, David Bednar, Garrett Whitlock, Mason Miller, Gary Clevenger, Brad Keller. Pick your poison there. You can play some matchups. The Reaper finishing games for Team USA feels heavenly to me.
There are so many incredible facets of this team. Gunnar Henderson plays second.
Yeah.
Gunnar Henderson, a top 18 player in Major League Baseball, just off the top of my head, is playing second base because the best shortstop in baseball, the greatest shortstop in the world, the 3rd best overall player in the world, Bobby Witt Jr., is playing shortstop. I mean, it's really difficult to even fathom. And when you look at the betting odds, BetMGM gives Team USA about a 49% chance to win the World Baseball Classic.
So it's really U.S. versus the field.
24% for Japan. To put that in perspective, and Japan is number 2. And then you work down the line, and it's a lot of 15 to 10% when we're looking at the betting odds and looking at the implied probability of said betting odds. You're looking at one of the greatest bullpens to ever take the field. Probably the best, right? You're looking at the greatest starting rotation. You're looking at the greatest 1 through 9 in the lineup, and their bench is filled with guys that would be one of the best players on any other team in the World Baseball Classic. If they don't win this tournament, this feels like the dream team in the late 90s, the redeemed team, where they are so otherworldly loaded that anything less than a championship is a failure. That's how good the team is.
Everybody's looking up at Japan, the reigning World Baseball Classic champ. And I think our Japan conversation is going to be pretty quick because they're either established superstars in Major League Baseball or they're in the NPB. But Peyton, if you wouldn't mind throwing up Team Japan's roster, it's headlined by Shohei Ohtani, obviously. And Ohtani is going to DH. He's not going to pitch in the World Baseball Classic. That was his choice. But you got Munetaka Murakami, the newest White Sox. He's going to play first base. Kazuma Okamoto just signed a $60 million deal with Toronto. He's going to play third base. And then you've got Yoshida in there as well. You've got Seiya Suzuki in there as well. And then you go to the rotation. And I feel like that's kind of the separator, and that's where we saw everybody come to play. You know, that's Roki Sasaki bursting onto the scene. It's Yamamoto bursting onto the scene in 2023. Yamamoto is going to throw for Team Japan. Sasaki is not. But Yusei Kikuchi is going to throw for Team Japan. Tomoyuki Shigano is going to throw for Team Japan. Notable omissions, Sasaki, obviously. Tetsuya Imai, who just signed a 3-year deal with the Houston Astros. And Yu Darvish. Darvish is a big one that was very present in 2023. You know, they also have some interesting bullpen arms, Yuki Matsui, the San Diego Padres, and then a couple other guys that are really solid in NPB. Shugo Maki playing second base is very good in NPB. The catcher Sakamoto, very good in the league over there as well. But Japan fascinates me. They're going to have to be carried by their superstars again, and we'll probably run into an Ohtani type of situation again if they do get to the World Baseball Classic final.
Yeah, it's a very intriguing roster. But again, just to compare it to the USA team, Yusei Kikuchi is the number 2 for them. The United States has Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
That's the level, right? Losing Ohtani on the mound hurts. Losing Imai hurts. Losing a couple other guys. That's, I think, what separates Japan from the United States because, you know, we can look at the bullpens and we can look at the benches, but they're fielding a really, really good lineup. It doesn't compare to the United States. So how would they beat them is by pitching, but by losing a couple of those key guys, like how many innings can Yamamoto truly throw for them? It's not going to look like the postseason, you know, in October, right? He's not, you know, coming in from the bullpen. He's not going all out in a game 7 type scenario. He's also going to give them 4 innings. So when Yamamoto isn't on the mound, it's not as scary of a Japan team as we've seen in previous years. And they were real scary when Shohei Ohtani was striking out Mike Trout and they won the whole thing. But this year, the USA, I think, just clears them in every facet of the game, even defense, because you look at the defense for Team Japan with Yoshida and Seiya in left and right, with Okamoto and Murakami on the corners. Like, it's not even a great defensive team either. So, like, the betting odds give the United States 49% chance. I think it should be closer to 60%. I think this team is worlds ahead of the other rosters we have.
I think there's a lineup that we haven't talked about yet that holds a candle to the U.S., and we're going to talk about them in a moment right here on the Just Baseball Show.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
The money line keeps climbing, though, if you'll notice.
Yes.
The point spread hasn't moved. It's been locked in at 4.5. The money line, though, keeps creeping up, man. It was 210, and it's funny because normally you figure the number would be correlated, right? It's like, all right, the money line, the point spread's this, that means the money line is that, which tells us there's a lot of money line plays coming in on Seattle.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Adding Hunter doesn't instantly fix its woes, it paper cuts them. He helps their perimeter defense and spacing, but Sacramento still lacks a true star and parts that they have to move. Hunter and Sacramento won't save the season, but this move tells you the Kings have officially given up on its aspirational stars and doubling down on depth as their future.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
They actually play Miami and nobody else. Bum after bum after bum. Now, the key ingredient to this clause, though, Joe, college football undefeated season. Ooh, no, wait, Donnie. You go undefeated in the regular season, you got to win like 4 games to win that championship. No, you don't. It's regular season. Notre Dame, the kings of duck, and say, hey, we're going to play the easiest schedule ever. They got it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Show continues. Jack McMullen, Peter Appel, Peyton Gene hanging out as well, hitting all the right buttons. And of course, we are, as always, presented by BetMGM. We just talked about Team USA and Team Japan's roster, but there's a lineup that is as good as the U.S. And the more that I think about it, the more I realize, like, I don't even think it holds a candle. I think it's entirely comparable to what Team USA is running out. And it's time to talk about the Dominican Republic. That Dominican lineup is nothing short of amazing. Austin Wells, noted Dominican, is catching. Agustin Ramirez is his backup. You've got a slated projected infield of Vladdy at first, Ketel Marte at second, Geraldo Perdomo, the 7-win player, the shortstop for the Diamondbacks at short, Manny Machado at third, Junior Caminero could DH if you want, and an outfield of Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, and Fernando Tatis Jr. By the way, on the bench, Jeremy Pena could play some shortstop. O'Neal Cruz could play some outfield. If they need a late-game defensive replacement, Johan Rojas. You've got Agustin Ramirez sitting there if you need a 500-foot homer hit. This lineup is egregious. The rotation and the bullpen could be the separator between the U.S. and the Dominican Republic, but I do think you're splitting hairs when you look at these two lineups.
I think this is the second best team ever fielded in the history of baseball. Look at this team. Podcast Pete, can you throw up the graphic again? Look at this team, folks, for all those watching on YouTube. Their lineup is a mirror of the United States lineup. I would give the USA just a slight advantage. But man, it's close. I think the separator would be the rotation, right? Christopher Sanchez is a top 5 pitcher in the world. He's as good as anybody. But then it drops off a little bit with Sandy and Brian Bayo and Luis Severino. Like, the United States starting staff is just a lot deeper. The bullpens.
That's gross. That bullpen is gross.
The bullpen is disgusting. It's got really good stuff throughout. And so in the later innings, that's where Dominican Republic can close the gap a little bit, but when it comes to a start-on-start advantage, that's where the USA does. But again, is this not the second best team ever fielded? I mean, I'm at a loss for words seeing Jeremy Pena on the bench. Right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think for maybe casual baseball watchers, they might not know what Geraldo Perdomo has done over the last season and a half. Last season was his true breakout season. Geraldo Perdomo was an 100 RBI guy for the Arizona Diamondbacks this past year, and he's one of the best defenders at shortstop in Major League Baseball. Perdomo over Jeremy Pena is the right way to look at this, but Pena also hit .310 last year and played really good defense at shortstop. So that is like the one place that I look and say it's kind of a toss-up with somebody on the bench, but Jeremy Pena might be the best bench piece in this whole darn tournament. So it is just crazy. And I want to run through the bullpen real quick. Albert Abreu is a name that not many people may know, but he throws fuzz, obviously. Huáscar Brazoban with the Mets, also a guy that throws fuzz. Sir Anthony Dominguez just signed a 2-year deal with the White Sox. Camilo Doval is going to get closing opportunities for the Yankees. Carlos Estevez saved, I think, 40 games last year for the Kansas City Royals. Wandy Peralta, Mr. Reliable for San Diego. Dennis Santana, the closer for the Pirates. Edwin Uceta, the closer for the Rays. And then Abner Uribe, the electric closer for the Milwaukee Brewers. This bullpen might be better than the U.S.'s. And I do want to go back. I do want to go back real quick to your Sanchez-Sandy point. I think that's a really good one, too, in this tournament.
It is.
But it's just not Skubal Skeens. It's not close.
Again, it's comparing Tarek Skubal to Paul Skeens, right? On the show, we're going through all of our top 10s. It's like comparing Jose Ramirez to Matt Chapman. I'm saying it's not a great 1-2 compared to Skeens and Skubal. The expectations are so high that I don't mean it to sound negative, but when we have to split hairs, we have to figure out who's better. And there really is no debate between Skeens and Skubal and Sandy and Christopher Sanchez. It's just, I mean, both Skeens and Skubal are better than Christopher Sanchez.
Right. So the other thing is the catching situation. Augustine and Wells. Thought Yainer Diaz was going to be on this roster. He's not. Augustin Ramirez is on the roster. Augustin is a freak when it comes to just sheer power, but Wells is likely going to catch in the big games for the Dominican Republic. I got a text. Appreciate Connor Onion watching. Connor does a great job calling college football, college basketball for Fox. He also does some baseball, Major League Baseball for Fox. You can find him on FS1 during the regular season. He texted me, "You just enlightened me. Austin Wells is Dominican." Yes, Austin Wells was born in Arizona, raised in Nevada, but his mother is of Dominican descent. So Austin Wells, Nelson Cruz, the GM for Team Dominican Republic, Cruz recruited Wells, and Austin Wells is catching for the DR. That I do feel like is a huge difference between those two, where you've got Raleigh and Will Smith as opposed to Austin Wells and Augustine.
Raleigh and Will Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the United States has 5 of the top 10 players in the world. And the DR has 3 of them, I think. I mean, this format is incredible. This is why the World Baseball Classic is as good of baseball as you could possibly go. We were down there the last time in Miami, and every game I left smiling. The crowd is unbelievable. They're so into the games. I mean, it's baseball World Cup, and for baseball nerds like us, it's got to feel exactly what soccer fans feel like when watching the World Cup. It's the pinnacle of baseball, and with these rosters, it's the definition of it.
I think there's another roster that's pretty darn good and can make a move in this tournament. I don't know if they can win it because of just how strong the U.S. and the DR and Japan are. But have you seen Venezuela's roster at this point? Venezuela is absolutely loaded. And I want to start with the lineup. William Contreras is going to catch for them. Salvador Perez, the Royal, is going to DH for them. And then you've got Williams' brother Wilson playing first base. Gleyber Torres at second, Andres Jimenez at short, and Michael Garcia, the newly extended Kansas City Royal, just got about $80 million at the hot corner. And the outfield being Acuna, Jackson Chorio, and Wilyer Abreu seems unfair. And oh, by the way, their bench is ridiculous. Luis Arraez coming off the bench, Eugenio Suarez if you need a 7th-inning bomb, Ezequiel Tovar coming off the bench to play shortstop if you need, and then Javier Sanoja, who won the utility gold glove for the Miami Marlins this past year. That offense is superb. And then the rotation of Ranger Suarez, Pablo Lopez, Eduardo Rodriguez, and German Marquez, it drops off a little bit after Erod, or it drops off a little bit after Pablo Lopez, and then a lot of it after Erod. But I mean, you've got enough firepower here, I think, to make some serious noise. And in a baseball tournament, there's a lot more chance here than football. There's, I think, some more chance than basketball. You get a good start from an Erod, and he just carves up a bunch of left-handed hitters. Venezuela can make some serious noise.
They absolutely can. And just because I said the United States has the best roster I've ever seen does not mean that they have now locked in to win it, right? When I said I think the probability they win the World Baseball Classic is at 60%, I didn't say 100 because of teams like Venezuela who are deep throughout. Even defensively, look at this roster right now with Andres Jimenez and Michael Garcia and William Contreras and Wilyer Abreu and Jackson Chorio. And if Ronald Acuna Jr. buys in, we know he has the tools to be one of the better defenders in baseball. On the mound with Suarez and Lopez, it's an excellent front two. And they have a lot of guys in the bullpen who have closed or have been in a bunch of high leverage innings in Major League Baseball. And then the bench is really, really solid. Again, I keep going back to the same point. This is why I am so excited. Venezuela is the 4th roster that we've brought up so far, and they're probably a top 10 roster ever fielded in the history of baseball. That's where we're at. Look how good these teams are. I cannot wait.
It's going to be so much fun. We've got about a minute left in this segment. If this team has an Achilles heel, is it their bullpen? You know, they've obviously got some guys like Daniel Palencia throwing fireballs, but it just seems like they lack the depth of the U.S. and the DR.
Yes, I would say after Ranger Suarez and Pablo Lopez come in and give you their 4 solid innings, who's going to be covering 5 through 7? Because once we get to the 8th and 9th inning, I feel good about guys like Angel Zerpa or Daniel Palencia, you know, or a couple other guys back there that can manage those high leverage innings. But how do they operate in the middle?
You got to bridge. Yeah, you have to bridge there. And I don't know if they have the bridge pieces that are required, while the U.S. has Brad Keller and Matthew Boyd and Gary Clevenger if they need them, and that's awesome. And then you've got Wandy Peralta sitting there and Huáscar Brazaban for the DR. So we'll see if the pitching stacks up, but I think when you look at that lineup, it's pretty darn close to what the U.S. and the Dominican Republic are rolling out. We're going to talk about two darlings in this tournament in a moment. That's coming up next on the Just Baseball Show.
How about selling it to a minority ownership group that could show the NFL is moving in the right direction? Hey, it's one thing to talk about black coaches in the National Football League. It's one thing to talk about black general managers. It's another thing to start talking about a minority owner owning the football team.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Aaron Peterson right now is minus 300 to be the top pick in the NBA draft. And anybody that saw the game on Saturday, you saw his vicious dunk, and you saw his explosiveness, and he hung 18 points up on the board in the first half, right? What did he do in the second half? Ask Bill Self. Why did he come out of the game? What did Bill Self say? I don't know. Ask him. This is where we're at right now.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
David Tyree.
Oh, wow.
The 2008 Giants win against the New England Patriots and the Tyree catch of the Plaxico Burress game-winning touchdown. That was the only other time in Super Bowl history where the betting public won money.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Talk about Mexico and Canada in the World Baseball Classic. I think I want to start with Team Mexico because Team Mexico was the Cinderella and the darling of the 2023 World Baseball Classic, and they return a lot of familiar faces. This lineup is not as good as the big three that we just talked about, even the big four that we just talked about. But they're frisky. They're totally frisky, and they showcased that friskiness in the 23 Classic. Randy Arozarena stood on his head. Are we dismissing the idea that Randy Arozarena has another out-of-body experience for Team Mexico? Absolutely not. But you're looking at a probable starting lineup of Alejandro Kirk catching, Rowdy Tellez DHing, Jonathan Aranda at first, Luis Urias at second, Joey Ortiz at short, Nick Gonzalez at third. By the way, that's going to be really cool if they share the left side of the infield. Ortiz and Gonzalez were teammates at New Mexico State in college, and now they get to play together in the World Baseball Classic. It's not like it's LSU. It's New Mexico State. And then an outfield of Jaron Duran, Alec Thomas, and Randy Arozarena. Notable pieces on the bench, Julian Ornelas, Alejandro Osuna with the Texas Rangers, Jared Serna with the Miami Marlins, Joey Meneses, who has bounced around a little bit. They fall behind the heavy hitters on the mound. Taijuan Walker, Jose Urquidy, Javier Assad, Taj Bradley. Curious about that. In the rotation, their big hitter in the bullpen, maybe the best bullpen piece in this thing outside of Mason Miller, Andres Munoz, the closer for the Seattle Mariners. But this offense, I just won't doubt them with what we saw in 23, but on paper, they lack behind the others.
They do, and there's a part of me that wants to call them a sleeper in this tournament, but there's another part of me looking at a roster full of big leaguers. I'm like, well, how can you be a roster full of big leaguers and be a sleeper at the same time? Like, I really like this lineup, and I think the outfield with big game Randy, Jaron Duran, and Alec Thomas is a real good one. And I think Jonathan Aranda is going to raise a lot of eyebrows in this tournament because, you know, he plays down in Tampa. Not a lot of people have seen him play, but when he's hitting in the middle of this lineup and he's hitting any pitcher that you can throw at him, he's going to be the guy that I think fans come away from the World Baseball Classic thinking to themselves, I got to watch more Rays games. I got to watch more of Jonathan Aranda hit. And then, of course, you have a top three catcher in the world in Alejandro Kirk. Another player that I'm really excited for fans to watch, Victor Vodnik, reliever with the Colorado Rockies, throws fireballs, fuzzballs. He's going to be sitting 102 miles an hour with all that adrenaline. That back end bullpen duo of Vodnik and Munoz, must watch.
That's going to be really darn fun. I just wonder about like the big homer. Where does it come? The answer is probably a Rosarena or Jaron Duran. I guess you could clump Rowdy Tellez in there.
Aranda
too. I am really excited to see Alejandro Kirk just, catch for Team Mexico and really try and thrive for them as well. But there's another team that is, I think, fun and young and exciting that comes from North America. Team Canada's got some juice, man. Notably, Freddie Freeman is not on the roster, but they've got plenty of other intrigue on this roster. Their projected lineup: Bo Naylor catching, Liam Hicks as his backup, Josh Naylor at first base, Jared Young can DH, Edouard Julien, who was just picked up by the Rockies, he's at second, Otto Lopez, the Marlins at short, Abraham Toro likely at third base, maybe some Tyler Black at third base as well, and then an outfield of Tyler O'Neill, Denzel Clark, and Owen Casey. Start with the lineup, and then we'll get to the pitching. This lineup is like not better than any of the ones that we just talked about, but it's going to be kind of fun to like watch Denzel Clark play again and see Owen Casey swing it and see Otto handle shortstop. I also love it because it's just absurdly Marlins heavy. You've got 3 fish that could be in the lineup.
Yeah, this team is going to lead the World Baseball Classic in lead changes. Because I think they have a really, really good lineup, right? It's a lineup full of big leaguers, right? You talked about Denzel Clark. They got Tyler O'Neill, who can get you a big-time homer, when needed. Josh Naylor is a man who was built for the lights, and with his brother as well. I'm really excited for that duo. And their rotation, it could be up and down with Logan Allen and Michael Soroka and Jamison Tyone and Cal Quantrill. They could pitch really well or get bombed. And then you look at the bullpen, and it's a lot of guys who you don't really know the names of outside of the guys who will be managing the 9th and 8th innings. So this is a team that I think is going to be able to hit with other teams.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to pitch with other teams. And I think that'll be their undoing.
So probably, although every Cal Quantrill start will probably be 7 scoreless, you would think.
Well, you're underrating him, probably 8 or 9.
Soroka and Tyone in that rotation as well. But when you look at what they have elsewhere, I mean, that bullpen's it's not interesting. I don't want to say interesting. I'm just fascinated to watch Tugboat Wilkinson pitch in the World Baseball Classic. If you are not familiar with the legend of Matt Tugboat Wilkinson, the Guardians prospect, this guy was one of the minor league leaders in strikeouts in 2024. He is 6 foot, probably 285, 290, and he uses all of that to get down the mound, and he throws like 89 miles an hour, but it is an invisible. It just rides to the top. And the aura of Tugboat is going to be unmatched in the World Baseball Classic.
Logan Allen is on this team.
Yes.
And Tugboat kind of reminds me of if you added 200 pounds to Logan Allen in a way. I really want to see Logan Allen start and then Tugboat follow him, because people are going to be like, what did you
They're kind of the same guy when it comes to pitching.
In the dugout before you came back out? Are we sure this is the right guy? No. Again, if I'm betting totals in the World Baseball Classic, this is a straight dead nuts over team to bet, where I think they're going to be putting up 5 and they're going to struggle to not give up 5. So these type of games with Team Canada, they might end up being really entertaining because they don't really have the pitching, but they got the bats.
I don't want to spoil who is like my darling of the whole classic, because we're going to spend the final segment on that. But we got about 90 seconds here to talk about, some of the other competitors in this field. Australia is going to run out Travis Bazzana. Puerto Rico, they got killed with the people that aren't, playing due to insurance. And then Javier Baez, it was a bizarre THC positive test that wiped him out of this, even though that's not tested in Major League Baseball.
Exactly. MLB doesn't test for it. Why is the World Baseball Classic testing for it? Are you kidding me?
I have no idea. No clue. But no Baez, no Lindor, no Correa, and I think no Barrios for Team Puerto Rico as well. Israel is kind of interesting. They've got a bunch of big leaguers that are going to play for them, but they lack the star power as well. Australia, I am excited to see Bazzana swing it a little bit. Out of those 3, are you still just kind of siding with Puerto Rico, especially because they're hosting their pool?
I also think there's an edge with Puerto Rico going into the tournament, right? When you get a lot of bad news and you have to rally together as a team, that could be a jump starter for you, where now you're not expected to win, and playing without that pressure, when Puerto Rico generally does, their fan base is really into it. There is inherent pressure on a roster normally as good as Puerto Rico to perform. Now that they don't, it might actually help them. So Puerto Rico would be the team I choose there.
I love it. I want to talk about the darling of the tournament next. This is a lineup that you will be fascinated by, and we'll wrap with it in a sec on the Just Baseball Show.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
Can USA overtake Canada and get that gold, Joe?
Absolutely, they can here. And ultimately, it feels like that is the two-horse race. And I think ultimately, Canadians don't really care if their team competes in the luge or the bobsled, Donnie, or anything else. They just want that gold when it comes to ice hockey. And that is the only thing that's going to matter there.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on Kraft.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
But I will say, at 4.5 and over, I've been with covers for 20 plus years now. I've been betting for a long time. When it comes to 4 and 4.5 point spreads, if I'm looking at the favorite, I do not lay the points. I go straight to the money line, knowing that it's minus 200. This has been a no man's land for football betting in the NFL, basically since 2015, since they moved the point after touchdown back.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Baseball show comes to a close. Jack McMullen, Peter Appel, Peyton Genis, we're hanging out with you. And folks, get your hands ready and start like kind of flicking your index and your middle and your thumb towards the camera and say, hey, what about it? Tell me about it, Team Italy in the World Baseball Classic. I don't know if these guys are from Italy, but this lineup is awesome. Running you through this lineup. Vinny Pasquantino is probably going to play first base. Jack Caglione is going to DH. Kyle Teal of the White Sox is going to catch. Sam Antonacci, who's one of the White Sox top prospects, is going to play second base. John Birdie, utility man, will probably be at shortstop. Miles Mastroboni at third base. In outfield of Dominic Canzone in Seattle, Zach DeZenzo in Houston, and Jacob Marcy in Miami is really fun. Not to mention Thomas Saggese, the Cardinal, is on the bench. Dante Nori and Nick Morabito, 2 prospects in the NL East that can absolutely fly, are on the bench. And Andrew Fisher, one of the best third base prospects in minor league baseball, a Brewers farmhand, is also on the bench. And then they run out a rotation of Aaron Nola, Michael Lorenzen, Matt Festa, and Gordon Graceffa. That's 4 big leaguers.
Yeah.
I would love to know how all of these guys qualify for Team Italy. I asked Jacob Marcy. I saw him at Marlins Media Day. I said, how much Italian do you speak? He said, nah, not much. But his mom, he was explaining like his great-grandparents came over from Italy to the U.S., and you can kind of track the lineage down. But he was eligible, and he was recruited, and he said, absolutely, I want to do this. They have some interesting bullpen names, too. Adam Ottavino, Kyle Nicholas, the flamethrower for the Pirates. Greg Weissert is in there as well. Alec Jacob, Dylan DeLucia won a national championship at Ole Miss. There are some guys in here. Sam Aldegari. I don't know, man. This Team Italy lineup is like, they could mess around and win a couple games.
Ron Marinaccio, I'm so glad that you brought up this bullpen, because I think it's easy to look at Team Italy and look at the lineup and say this is a team of big leaguers, but then just kind of forget about the pitching, because a lot of the fun names are in the lineup. But Aaron Nola and Michael Lorenzen is a really solid front too. And then the bullpen, right? They have, I think their bullpen is like 11 guys. 8 of them are big leaguers, which you're not really going to find on a lot of these World Baseball Classic rosters outside of the heavy titans at the absolute top. But when you're comparing Team Italy to other teams ahead of them, BetMGM gives them a 1.8% chance of winning the World Baseball Classic behind Canada, a good bit behind Mexico and Puerto Rico and Venezuela. I look at Team Italy and I think to myself, I think they should be grouped with those teams. They are not as bad as the odds would tell us they are compared to those teams that I named.
There's some fun vibes with Team Italy too. I remember last World Baseball Classic in 23, didn't they have like an espresso machine or something in the bullpen? They were able to pump their own espresso out. So who needs a Red Bull when you've got an espresso machine? But yeah, man, Team Italy is just, they're fun. And I'm with you. They should be clumped with a Team Canada. I think I would take that roster over Canada's, to be totally honest with you.
They're right there. I could totally hear that. I could hear that with Team Mexico. I could hear it with Team Puerto Rico. Like, I think there's a heavy hitters list at the top, and it's the USA, it's Japan, it's DR. But then after
I think
that,
Venezuela should be in tier 1.
I don't know. I think that they're at the very top of tier 2. Again, tier 1 is outrageous. Tier one
is saying tier 1. Yeah, Venezuela is outrageous, man.
Sure. You put them in there because these are like some of the best rosters that's ever been put together. So sure, put Venezuela in tier 1. But I think if we're comparing Italy to the rest of tier 2, put Venezuela in tier 1. They're just as good as the remaining teams, and I think they're a great pick for a sleeper.
We've got about 2 minutes.
Can we talk about
everything?
Can we talk about quickly Nick Martinez to the Rays?
Oh, of course. I think that's actually kind of fun for them. They needed innings, and Nick Martinez can supply innings.
I agree. I thought it was a perfect fit. I'm looking at the Rays roster, and I'm seeing a bunch of guys who you are hoping and praying get you 100 innings this year. And you might have one guy in a Ryan Pepiot who can get you 150. What do they bring in? 165 innings from the year prior. And in the years preceding that, 2024, 2023, 2022. This guy has been over 100 innings at a mid-3s ERA, and they just brought him in kind of right before pitchers and catchers report, and nobody really noticed. I think it's a really good pickup for the Rays. But yes, we can plug some things. So make sure to go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. Perfect in time for the World Baseball Classic. Some Just Baseball merch, spring training. We got shirts for every single team. Make sure to go check out our merch store. If you want to join the best baseball group chat in the world, or we'll be talking World Baseball Classic, you'll get my MLB futures early. You can find the link to that in the episode description. And for all those who have been watching on YouTube and on SportsGrid, thank you to all those on SportsGrid on YouTube. Before you go, if you can just smash the like button, make sure to subscribe because we're going to be filling your feed with baseball videos all year long. And of course, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, 5-star reviews are the best way to help out the show.
100%. That's Peter Appel. Peyton Genis is with us as well. I'm Jack McMullen. We thank you, as always, for watching and listening to the Just Baseball Show. Again, we are available pretty much 4 or 5 times a week. Moving forward, it's going to be like 5 times a week during the season. So you will get your baseball fix from us. And this episode just got me incredibly giddy for the World Baseball Classic. Thank you all so much. We will talk to you soon.
He completed a pool bank shot at just 2 years and 302 days. His achievements make him one of the youngest double record holders ever. So let me summarize this for you without reading. He's 2 years old, and he's really good at pool. I mean, that is crazy. 2 years old! How is he doing this? I have no idea. So I guess we got to start training our youngsters to play pool. Okay, fair enough.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
How about selling it to a minority ownership group that could show the NFL is moving in the right direction? Hey, it's one thing to talk about black coaches in the National Football League. It's one thing to talk about black general managers. It's another thing to start talking about a minority owner owning the football team.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Gosh, I really do like the storylines with these open field events. Like, I want us to expand these signature events to bigger fields because I really do like the Joel Damon story, the Andrew Putnam story. It's part of the PGA Tour and what makes it so good. So I don't know where they're going to eventually end up on all of this.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
They cheated.
No, they're not saying
Right?
that. Well, they're not, but they're not really giving a reason on crap.
The only two of the voters I've seen, maybe it's more, came out and said why they didn't vote for him. And they said, I'm limited to 3 votes.
Yeah.
And I will always pick a player over a coach or an owner.
Right.
By the way, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy saying, I'm not afraid of you knowing who I picked. I'm going to tell you why I picked him.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.